This video is in part a reply to a couple of people who got into a conversation with me on Reddit about learning Chinese and being vegan in China, veganism in Chinese culture and Western culture being contrasted. And it's partly a video reflecting more broadly on the changing culture of the internet itself. If you've talked to vegans or you've looked at vegan stuff on the internet, you may or may not have heard this phrase, kind of like a slogan, that really rubs some people the wrong way, that really has a negative effect on some people, including some vegans. Some vegans like to say, veganism is not a diet. Now, it's a significantly different thing from saying veganism is not just a diet, but that veganism is not a diet at all. Now, of course, veganism is a type of food, but one of the reasons why some vegans say this, to the chagrin or confusion of other vegans, is because of this type of cultural concept. This is hun, as in hunshe. So in Chinese culture, that's the traditional character, that's the simplified character. The bottom half of the character, the bottom 2/3, is the same as the Chinese character for the military. I got these guys on Reddit writing to me saying that I was dead wrong in my use of the Chinese language. I was dead wrong when I was saying about veganism, first and foremost, because sushe in Chinese should be contrasted to hunshe, the character I just showed you. And this concept of hun, ironically, this overlaps with one of the other things people found offensive or problematic in my earlier video in Chinese talking about veganism, which is that video openly reviles traditional Buddhist concepts that may resemble veganism, but that are not, in fact, vegan.
在世界上，我们有佛教徒从来不吃肉，但是他们的主义是生气的思想方法，就是封疆制度的主义。
So, why would any vegan go around saying veganism is not a diet when we all know there is such a thing as a vegan restaurant, there is such a thing as a vegan menu or a vegan option? Vegan is definitely a type of food, and it's a type of label that's on food, and it's a way of eating. And yet, so many vegans go around saying veganism is not a diet. Well, the people in this Reddit group were reproaching me as if I don't know what I'm talking about, and they know what they're talking about. They're the experts, because they've never Googled this, they've never given this 5 minutes of thought, they're not vegan, they don't care about the issue. But they think from their position of expertise that I'm failing to appreciate the opposite of vegan is hunshe, and therefore I shouldn't refer to people eating animal products and using animal things, animal stuff. Because some of the wording in my video was very vague this way. I didn't use the character they were telling me to use, the character and cultural concept they were telling me to use, which is, again, hun.
纯素生活到底是什么呢？纯素生活就是不用任何动物的东西。所以，比如说牛奶、鸡蛋、肉、鱼，什么全部吃的、喝的、穿的动物的东西，全部都不用。所以皮、羊毛、蜂蜜这些都不用。
But this character is not what you think it is. And it's really quite antithetical to both the theory and practice of veganism. All right? Now, point out in reply, oh yeah, you think I should be using this character, hun. Leather shoes. Leather shoes were discussed in my earlier video. Are leather shoes hun or su? It's totally outside of this cultural paradigm, right? Susha, the idea of eating su in Buddhist culture, Confucian culture, traditional Chinese culture, this concept doesn't challenge in any way the use of leather. What about riding horses?
为了讲讲历史上的每个国家需要买马，哪个国家没有马，哪个国家不可以赢，所以不可以生存。然而，这个时代结束了，我们不需要骑马，我们不需要喝牛奶。一些人想象纯素主义是一个古老的方法，但是这个真的就是现代问题的答案。
So riding horses came up, and this was another thing that offended or confused some people in their reply. I point out that if you have a really vegan society, nobody's riding horses, nobody's using horses in this way. Exploitation of domesticated animals is also contrary to veganism, but it's not contrary to this concept of hun. And then on the flip side of that, there are plenty of foods that are vegan, that vegans do eat, but that are excluded by this concept of hun, hunshe, Okay? So a traditional Buddhist would reject as hunsha, would reject as not acceptable for a Buddhist. They would reject garlic, they would reject onions, they would reject a list of vegetables that I could tell you the origin of this in Buddhism. It's really based on both a mistranslation and a misunderstanding of something in Pali and Sanskrit in ancient Indian Buddhism. Of course, Buddhists in India all ate garlic. Still to this day, Buddhists in India eat garlic. But Buddhists in China, due to this misunderstanding and mistranslation, they think that Buddhism requires you to refuse to eat garlic, right? Now, of course, from a vegan perspective, garlic is entirely vegan, whereas leather shoes are not, riding horses is not. And on all of these issues, I got these really self-righteous, sanctimonious people who believe their level of Chinese is better than mine. And it probably is better than mine. Probably the people writing to me, they speak Chinese better than I do. They've studied Chinese longer than I have. I've studied for 7 months. Okay? I studied for 7 months in Kunming at a very high level of intensity. And, relative to the level when I arrived in the school, many of the teachers said it was basically astounding how fast I rose to the level that I'm now at, which is a level where I can, answer normal questions and buy groceries and go to restaurants and read the menu and complain to the waiter, is this or is this not vegan? Because if you are vegan, even if you speak Chinese at a really low level of ability, the thing you are most practiced in, most adept in, is exactly explaining to waiters and other waiters and people in grocery stores that you're vegan, asking whether or not, for example, a vegetable dumpling, it contains vegetables, but are the vegetables cooked in pork fat? Asking these kinds of questions about trace ingredients and invisible ingredients and things. Explaining the concept of veganism in Chinese is the one area of this language I am vastly more practiced at than anyone else in this discussion, even though I only studied Chinese for 7 months and I lived there for less than 2 years, right? In this stint of time where I was studying Chinese, okay? I did actually live in China during other periods of my life, but during those other periods, I was studying other languages like Laotian, Cambodian, Pali. I was not studying Chinese as a language during the earlier periods of my life in which I lived in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Yunnan, right? So this is a kind of fundamental problem I encounter with the internet again and again. Reproachful, self-appointed experts. I posted this video, my earlier video on veganism, in Chinese, in Reddit, in the first place, just with a humble statement, hey, I'm vegan, I'm studying Chinese, and I'm trying to meet other people who are the same, other people with the same interests. I'm trying to meet other vegans who are studying Chinese, or you could say other students learning Chinese who also happen to be vegan. I'm just looking for people. I didn't claim to be an expert. I didn't claim to be fluent in the language. I just said I was a student. And when people asked me, how long have you been studying? And they sometimes asked in an insulting way. One guy later deleted his comment. He said my elocution was terrible. How long have I been studying the language? And I was like, oh, well, when I made that video, I'd only been studying for a couple of months. That was maybe halfway through my 7 months of education in the language. So no, don't have claims to be an expert, what have you. But for those of us who are trying to use the internet in a sincere way, to make connections, to make something positive happen, to cooperate and collaborate, that's what this particular Reddit group is created for. It's for language exchange and language learning, right? To deal with this kind of cynical hostility from self-appointed experts who've never even looked into it. I had this one guy reproaching me at length, claiming that riding horses is vegan and therefore my video makes no sense. And Rebecca said, no, this is one of the differences between vegan and being merely vegetarian. Vegans don't just oppose eating horse meat, like killing a horse and eating its meat. We also oppose domesticating and riding the horse. We oppose castrating the horse, etc., etc. There are all these other things we oppose. Any kind of animal use is forbidden by veganism. And again, that's why a lot of these Chinese terms don't fit. And guys, the script for that earlier video I did where I'm speaking Chinese, I wrote it. I wrote the original script, but then I handed it to 2 Chinese professors who went through it and gave me corrections repeatedly. We did several rounds of corrections on this thing, and one of those 2 professors is herself vegan. Other terminology I got directly out of reading pamphlets written in Chinese that provided me with examples of how Chinese people themselves explain veganism in a pamphlet when one Chinese person is trying to convince another to become vegan. So, the fact that I use terms like animal product instead of contrasting this traditional concept of hunsha, please. Please. What is the point? Anyway, look, for some people, the internet is, a windowless room in which they can just stand alone and shout at an imaginary crowd. A lot of people use Tumblr that way. Like my girlfriend was joking the other day. She was saying, why do people use Tumblr? They use Tumblr so that they can post their real feelings about things without anyone else knowing it, like in contrast to Facebook, where they want to just anonymously vent their feelings. This is a stereotype about Tumblr. Tumblr is a website. You can use it to express any kind of opinion you want to. But I do encounter this all the time, and it is for me both saddening and kind of hilarious. People trying to behave as if they're experts on Buddhism when they're not. People trying to behave like they're experts on veganism when they're not. People trying to behave like they're experts on the Chinese language when they are not. And this kind of veneer of false expertise ultimately getting the way of the friendly and productive use of the internet, of someone like me just coming on and saying, hey, here's a YouTube video I made of me talking about veganism in Chinese, me speaking Chinese on camera. I'm vegan, I'm a student, I'm looking for others, people with common interests who are also studying Chinese. We could talk on Skype, we could, practice Chinese together. Hit me up.
但是大部分的人不可能关心，这个是我们的政治斗争。因为人性不在乎，我们跟人性斗争。有关这种事情，不是所有的人可能决定。人人有责，但是很多人一直是犹豫不决的。如果你知道这个肉工业是邪恶的，如果你可能决定，你应该决定。
À-bas-le-ciel.